Hello, welcome to my Saturday kitchen, well, our Saturday kitchen, actually. Good morning to Colleen. Thank you for joining me, and thank you to anyone else who has come along, who hasn't said yes, who hasn't said hello yet. So, please do drop me a note just to say that you're watching. Definitely to say that you're cooking along, because that's always really, really useful information. And also, if you're new, or if you just never said hello before, then let us know where you're tuning in from, because it's really, really lovely to know who is where, and sometimes people are in the same place, and that's really, really lovely. So do let me know. So Colleen, of course, quick off the bat, this morning, honestly, Colleen, she just must have so much energy in the morning, because it's 7 a.m. or something like that where she is. It's 12 noon here, and I don't have as much energy as she does. So Karen is here. Hello, Karen. And Ava. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Oh, Sylvie. Sylvie says, hey, do let us know where you're tuning in from, please, Sylvie. Okay, so today it's quite a specific recipe, because this is my protein brownies recipe. And this is a recipe that I developed when I went to the gym a lot. Of course, now I have to do stuff at home. But when I was doing a lot of tonal exercises, I was doing lots of weightlifting, lots of squats, just an inconceivable amount of squats. And I would always be so hungry after I left the gym, and I would know that I would need something that had quite a good amount of protein in it, but I didn't really want a shake, because I always found with protein shakes was that I would end up gulping it down too quickly, and then it would feel really bloated, and that wasn't very pleasant at all. So I decided to come up with a brownie recipe, which is amazing, because when you get that age-old question of where do you get your protein from, you can say brownies. And all of those non-vegans will look at you like, wow, veganism sounds pretty awesome. So it's a good bit of vegan outreach. Definitely. Okay, so Sylvie is in the UK. Right, okay. Brilliant. Colleen says she said nope, not today. I think that means that she's not cooking along. That she's still in bed. Rough night sleeping. Babe, sending you lots of hugs and vegan love. And so with this recipe, we are going to be using dates as our sweetener, because cocoa or cacao is quite bitter, so we need something to balance that out. I'm going to be using whole dates in this. You can use date syrup if you want. The added bonus of using something like dates is that we've got the fibre in there as well when they are like this. But one of the things that we want to do before we ever use dates, and this is a little word of caution here, is we just want to make sure that there are no there are no seeds, there are no stones in the dates still, because even though these are pitted, they say that they're pitted, you will find a warning on the back of the packet that says there may be a stone in here. And I don't know if you guys have ever come across date stones and how incredibly hard they are. And I'm going to be putting these dates into my blender, and I really, really, really don't want the blender to be bust with a date stone. And date stones are incredibly, incredibly hard, incredibly dense, incredibly strong. So say for example, our friends in America, quite often in your sinks you'll have those, oh gosh, what do they call them, where it chews up the food, and if a date stone gets stuck in one of those, it won't actually get cut up. It is that hard. It's that hard. We don't really have those things in the UK, but in a house that I used to work in as a private chef we did, and that's what happened. There was a date stone in there, and it was just going round and round and round and round, and it wasn't getting cut up at all whatsoever. We've got Maria here, and Patricia is here, and George. Good. We've got lots and lots and lots of regulars in the house. Okay, right, no stones in there at all. Okay, so this is a really, 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 really simple base recipe. You are not going to believe how simple it is. It is incredibly simple. Right, okay, so first of all, we have our 1 cup of unflavoured protein powder. Oh, Colleen said, I remember you saying that if you soak dates in water to save the water and use it for an energy drink. Thank you, Colleen, for reminding me about that. So before we get onto this, so I will say one thing about dates, which is that if they are quite hard and you don't have a blender that is quite as powerful as mine, then what you can do is you can soak them in warm water or hot water for about half an hour, just to make them softer. So as I'm sure that a lot of you guys will know, medjool dates, which are amazing, are very, very soft, and you will see them used in recipes time and time again, but they are incredibly expensive, really, really quite expensive. So you can go for a cheaper date, and then just soak them in hot water for about half an hour, but do save the water. I used to use that water when I was in the gym. I would just put a little bit of salt in it as well, and it would help like replenish the salt that I had that had gone from my body. This is a really nice conversation for a cooking show. But a little bit of salt in there and the date water, and it just kind of gives you an energy boost. So do save it and use it. But yeah, if your dates are hard, a bit too chewy, you're a bit worried about your blender being able to cope with them, then you can soak them. Okay, so thank you, Colleen, for reminding me about that. See, you haven't had much sleep last night, but you're still on the ball. More on the ball than I am. So, Melanie is here. Melanie says, here it's cold in Shrewsbury. Oh, it's a bit cold down here as well. Not cooking, computer upstairs, oven downstairs, made the strawberry mousse this morning. Okay, so for a few weeks ago, we made a really, really lovely strawberry mousse. You guys can catch up with that. All of these live shows are saved, unless they go disastrously wrong. And then they get deleted. Christina's here, and she says it's also cold and grey there. Yeah, so she's hunkering down with tea and toast. Oh, that sounds like a very, very good idea. Okay, right, so back to the recipe. Really, 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 really simple recipe. First of all, we've got 1 cup of unflavoured protein powder. Okay, so the reason why I say unflavoured protein powder is that quite a lot of protein powders I've found that are flavoured have an awful lot of stevia in them. Absolutely tons. In fact, I know one brand that is 25% stevia. And if you know anything about stevia, it actually packs a much sweeter punch than sugar does. So it was incredibly sweet, incredibly sweet. So, and also, with flavoured protein powders, they may have like fillers and God knows what in. So I always go for the unflavoured protein powder, and the unflavoured protein powder is cheaper than the flavoured stuff. Anyway, I'm using pea protein powder today. I know that Patricia, she actually checked out her protein powder with me, and we think that it's going to be okay. So I would say kind of like give it a go and see what happens. But there are like a protein powder can be like such different things. Like it's a recipe, a flavoured protein powder. So it has like lots of different things, and all the brands, really differ from each other. But I say, if you've got one in your cupboard, then give it a go and see what happens. And quite often, protein powder is one of those things that we buy and then it can just kind of like sit in our cupboard, and it's quite an expensive thing as well. So it's good to use it up. Oh, Paul is here. Paul is here. The counting man is here. Good. Because I can't keep count. Okay. Okay, so 1 cup of protein powder. As I said, I am using pea protein powder. The brand is Pulsin. I'll actually get the bag to show you guys. Here we go. This is the brand that I'm using today. I don't get any like free products from these guys. I don't get free products from anyone. So that I can, without bias, say to you guys, this is the one that I use. So this is the one that I use. There we go. And then we've got 1 cup of either raw cacao powder or cocoa powder. Either one is absolutely fine and it will taste very nice. The only difference is that the raw cacao powder is processed in a different way. So it's not heat treated, which means that it has more nutrition in it, basically. But it's more expensive. It is more expensive. So, there is that involved. So 1 cup into my bowl. See how easy this is? Like, it's so incredibly easy. 1 cup of buckwheat flour. So I think Colleen might be trying this out with oat flour, so do let me know how you get on with it. I wanted to use buckwheat flour in this recipe because it has a lot of protein in it. It has a lot of protein in it. So we're going to pop that in there as well. So 1 of each of those 3 different powders and into the bowl. Now, with mine, I'm going to be adding 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. I love cinnamon, and cinnamon is really, really good. What is it? Anti-inflammatory. It's a really good anti-inflammatory. So with, I can see that out the corner of my eye that Colleen's like really, really dying to know where the rainbow is. Down it, but I haven't done the overhead camera yet. I will do in a minute. Yes, so it's a really good anti-inflammatory, cinnamon, and I really, really like the flavour of it. So I'm going to put 1 tablespoon in here. You guys, you know, if you don't like cinnamon, don't put it in. But spices have such amazing properties, and they're so cheap as well, and so readily available that they're really, really great things to have in our diet. So I'm going to pop that into our bowl, and now I'll come to the overhead camera. So Paul says I have all the ingredients ready laid out on the table. I will make after the show so I do not miss anything. It's a very, very, very good plan. Okay, where's the overhead camera? There it is. Okay, so there is a rainbow, of course, on the show. There is always a rainbow on the show, and this is what is underneath the rainbow. So Colleen says, Justine, will you use 2 tablespoons of nutmeg? Yes, absolutely. Okay, so now I'm going to mix this, and rather than using my wooden spoon, I'm going to use this whisk. So this is actually not a hand whisk, it's part of an electric whisk, but I just use it as a hand whisk anyway. And I do this quite often when I'm making cakes or cookies. I use the whisk because it does help to get the lumps out. And I can see that the cacao is still, there are still a few lumps, but that's okay. But it gets quite a lot of them out, so it's quicker than us having to sieve it. There we go. Okay. Right, so now that part is made, we can put this to one side. And I've just lined my my baking tins here. Colleen has guessed that there's some type of list under the rainbow. Yes, there is a type of list underneath the rainbow. So I did specify in the recipe that the in the equipment list that the tray that you should be using is something like 30 by 24. But my 30 by 24 baking tray is still at the school, so I can't get that at the moment. So I've got these 2 instead. So we want the mixture to be about as thick as my thumb. About that thick. So we just want it to come up to here. We don't want it to be too thick because, you know, if it is like really, really high, then it's going to take such a long time to cook. Really, right, quite a long time to cook. Okay, right. I'm going to have to put Colleen out of her misery and let you know what this is. So Colleen says, is that your list of new students for the spring course? No, it's not. It's not. That would be lovely if I could do that. But I think for like privacy and personal data, probably wouldn't be allowed to. Patricia says, just to be different, I'm also mixing beetroot powder with cacao powder. That's a really, really good idea. Okay, Paul says, it's perplexing. Okay, so this is my shopping list. I don't know how you guys are going to be able to figure that out, but I was, again, having technical problems, which I am working on, and I didn't have time to draw anything, so it's my shopping list. Okay. Okay, right, so moving swiftly on. Linda is here. Linda says, hi, sorry I'm late, but I'd like to ask what to replace protein powder with. So I would say in this recipe, unfortunately, there is no substitution that I've worked out, because the goal of the recipe was always to be like an interesting way, a more interesting recipe using protein powder. So rather than having like protein shakes, which I find incredibly boring, and I mentioned earlier as well, Linda, is that with protein shakes I end up kind of like gulping them down and then feeling kind of like quite heavy and bloated. So I haven't tested this recipe out with anything to substitute the protein powder, but potentially you can use another high protein flour. So I've already got the buckwheat flour in there. There's lots of other kind of like pea and bean flours that are high in protein. The only thing that we do have to watch out for when we're subbing flours for other flours is that the different flours have a different thirst. So some can really kind of like suck up water and liquid like very, very quickly, very, very easily, and then others not so much. So what you might have to do is if you swap out that protein powder for like another high protein flour, then you may have to just like pay attention to what the texture looks like once I've got to the point where we're going to put the mixture into the baking trays. And you may have to adjust the dry or wet ingredients to get yours to the same texture as mine. Okay, so it might be a bit too dry if you do that substitution. It might be a bit too wet if you do that substitution. So you will have to maybe like, you know, fiddle about with it. So sorry, that's the best. That's the best kind of like advice I can give for that. Okay, right, so on to the wet ingredients. So in here I've got 2 cups of plant milk. I just use unsweetened soy milk, and because that's just the one that we use for tea. And then I've got 2 cups of dates in here, so I'm just going to pop these in, making sure that I don't splash myself. Colleen says shopping lists are very important. We can't have these demonstrations without. That's a very, very, very good point. Yeah, I do end up like having like lists like hanging on the door, just so that I can make sure that I've got everything that I need. Okay, just pop all of these in here. And as you see, I've got like a high-speed blender, but you guys can do this with a hand blender. If your dates are a bit on the tough side, then just give them a bit of a soak in hot water for about half an hour, as I mentioned earlier. Melanie says, I always follow recipes to the letter regarding tin sizes, but my brownies are always really thin. Nothing like the ones you can buy. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. Well, maybe they have added the wrong information. Because it does happen sometimes. Like sometimes it's just like an admin thing, you know. So like the wrong size tin can be entered, you know. Because I think like sometimes like we can blame ourselves and think that we're the one that is doing the recipe wrong, but actually it's the recipe that's wrong. You know, it happens. Like when you're producing like lots and lots and lots and lots of recipes, something's gonna like, you know, slip through the net. So don't necessarily think it's you, Melanie. I would think that if that is what is happening, if they're really thin, it's just that they haven't said the right size tin. That must be it. I can't really see any other any other kind of problem really. Patricia says I only have hazelnut milk. That would go amazingly well. Hazelnut and chocolate, definitely a good combo. Okay, right, guys, mind your ears. We're going to pop this onto here and give it a blend. Here we go. Let it do its thing. I don't have to do anything. Love it. Nearly there. Almost. Yay! Okay, right, there we go. So, I can see here that there are these little bits of skin. So when we're blending dates, quite often those little bits of skin, we just can't blend them completely. So it's fine because they are really, really thin. It's not gonna affect the texture or anything like that. And this is the most divine thing. So good. Just dates and milk. Nice. Okay. So, Colleen says, your basil plant is gorgeous. Now I want pasta with pesto sauce. Oh, yeah, I absolutely love my basil plant. And I absolutely adore basil. But I have to be really restrained with using it because in order to get it to grow that big, I haven't been able to take anything from it. So I have to be really, really good. Really, really good. Okay, so Paul says, it says US cup is 237 ml. Is a US cup the same as a UK cup? So, okay, that's a very, very good point. Let me just address that. So a UK cup is 250 ml. And around the world it can be a bit different. So, and the reason why this recipe is in cups is because it's one of these recipes that is for people who are, you know, doing lots of exercise, and quite often when you're like batch cooking, because quite a lot of those people will do batch cooking just to kind of like make it easier for themselves. They're usually like in a rush, in a massive rush, and just trying to get everything done really, really, really quickly. So we're going to be making like quite a large quantity today, really, at least kind of like 16 brownies. And so with the cup measurement, what that means is that as long as you've got a cup measurement, where's my cup measurement? I don't know where it's gone. Anyway, with your cup measurement, you can just really, really quickly kind of like make up this recipe. It's really, really quick. You don't have to like be weighing everything and, you know, dealing with all of that sort of stuff. And with this recipe, it is a little bit more forgiving. With, say, for example, like cakes or some of the cookies that I make, you do have to be quite precise, and so I will use grams with that type of recipe. I wouldn't use cups with that type of recipe, but with this one it's a bit more forgiving because cups isn't as exact as grams is. Okay, so Paul says, I only have 400 grams of protein powder. I need to know how many of your cups that is, as that is the limiting factor as to how many multiple batches I can make. Okay, so can anybody check, please, what 400 grams of protein powder will be in cups? Because sometimes you can get the conversion on the internet, but it's not, it can be a little bit slightly incorrect, because if you think about it, if we are now going into the technicalities of like, you know, recipe development and flours and stuff like that, but when we kind of like grab a cup of something, if when we're grabbing a cup of it, it hits the side of the bag or the box or whatever it is that it's in, it will really compact that flour that is in that cup. So there'll be more in it than if it wasn't compacted. Hope that makes sense. Something that I have to go into with my chef students, and it is quite a complex thing to get your head around. Okay, right. So now we can put our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients, and I'll bring you guys over to the blurry overhead camera, which you'll be glad to know I found a fix for. So in the upcoming shows we should have a much clearer overhead camera, which I'm very much looking forward to. Paul says I have cashew nut milk, but I could replace with soy milk. Either's fine. Absolutely, either's fine. But I would say, you know, if it's like I wouldn't use like a very thick milk. You don't really need a very thick milk. I recently tried the soy milk from M&S, and it's like cream. Like literally, it's like cream. It's crazy. Okay. Right. Now I'll bring you guys to the overhead camera. Here we go. And we can just start folding this in. We may get to a point where we need to use our hands, guys, so it's going to get, that would get messy. Let's see how we get on. Ava said, is this recipe good for children as well? Okay, well, I would say with children they might find it a bit bitter because there's an awful lot of cacao in this. And also, cacao has a lot of caffeine in it, so you may also find that they end up being quite hyper. So Ava, I would recommend that you reduce the amount of cacao in it. There we go. Okay, so we're going to get to the point where it seems like it's really kind of drying out. We have to be quite firm with it. So Melanie says it's great to use cups when cooking, but it's a complete pain when you are wondering how much of the ingredient you need to buy. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Probably, sorry, Melanie goes on to say, probably okay with baking ingredients is you tend to have the ingredients in bulk. Yes, absolutely, but when you need a cup of diced onion, etc., it's annoying. Agreed. yeah, it can be very, very annoying. Okay, so I've got to the point where this is quite thick and I can't mix it round anymore. So I'm just going to take this off and I'm going to get my hands involved now, guys. I've got nice clean hands. Maria says I've got vanilla flavoured protein. And also Denise does as well. Okay, that must be quite a popular one then. So guys, as I was saying earlier, you know, they can all be like very different from each other. So I'd have a look at what the ingredients say. And if it isn't too mad, if it isn't too, you know, including like ingredients that are just, you know, a bit kind of like off the wall and you're kind of like not really sure about it. If it is just, you know, kind of more kind of like berry powders and what have you, then you might be okay. You might be okay. But I think, you know, it's one of these things that you can kind of give it a go. And also it depends on how much stevia is in it, because as I mentioned earlier, some protein powders can have a lot of stevia in them. And then of course you'll have the stevia in the protein powder plus the flavour, the sweetness from the dates. So it would be like mega sweet. Mega sweet. Okay, so now we've got this quite firm dough. Okay, so this is what we're looking for. See? Okay, so now I'm just going to divide it between my two baking trays. Well, okay, it's a loaf tin and a brownie tin. Here we go. Okay, and then I'm just going to give my hands a quick rinse. Try to get this stuff up there. There we go. And I'm going to get a bowl of water as well, because that's just going to help me with soaking my hands and flattening this down, basically. Okay, so guys, we're on 130 degrees. Sorry, wait a minute. Is it 160 degrees? 160 degrees. There we go. 160 degrees Celsius. Sorry, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. I think it's gas mark 3. Patricia asks, you can also substitute cacao for carob with kids. That's a really, really good idea. I really, really like carob myself. I'm a bit of an old school vegan in that way because, you know, back in the day, that was seen as an alternative to chocolate. So quite often you'd find it in health food shops. And I really, really like the flavour of it. And actually, you know, I was talking about Pulsin, the brand of protein powder that I use. And they have a really, really lovely protein snack that is maple syrup and carob. And it's so divine. Really, 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 really nice. And I think part of the reason why I came up with this recipe was because I was so addicted to them. And I would always go and get one after I've been at the gym. But at like £1.89 for this kind of like little bar like that, I was like, no. I'm going to have to make something myself. So I can have like the maple and peanut, yeah, it's maple peanut and carob treats every now and again. But on a kind of daily basis, I would have my protein brownie. So guys, I'm just dampening my hand because the stuff, the mixture is very, 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 very sticky. There we go. And I'm just pressing it into all of the corners. So it's just like Play-Doh, really. But it just needs a bit of like coercion to get into all of those corners. So now we'll do this one as well. Just get it right into those corners as much as we can. There we go. Oh, Colleen, thank you, babe. She was 160 degrees Celsius converts to 320 degrees Fahrenheit. Brilliant. So it is quite a low one. And we're going to cook these for anywhere between 15 minutes to 25 minutes. Now the difference in time, you know, it is quite a kind of like ballpark figure that I've given there, and that's because quite often what we end up doing is we end up with brownies, as we've kind of touched on before, we end up making them slightly different thicknesses. So the cooking time is all about the thickness, really, when it comes to brownies. There we go. Okay, just getting it to the edge. There we go. Okay, so now I can just get rid of this. And we can pop these into the oven. And for me, they take around 20 minutes. And we want to get to the point where it's cooked on the top and we can see that it will have dried out, but it still feels a little bit squidgy underneath. Okay, so we'll just wipe down, guys. And then of course, here's one I made earlier. Okay, so this is what we are looking for in the end. Hey, there we go. Okay, so Paul says, fingers crossed, I may have enough protein powder for a quadruple batch. Wow. Okay, because this is already like batch cooking. There's already like quite a lot here. Okay, so this is what I end up with after 20 minutes. And as I said, you will be able to see that on the top that it's dried out, and it will darken as well. It will slightly darken in colour. But when I press it, it's still a bit squidgy. It's still a bit squidgy. Not loads, not loads. You don't want it to be like really squidgy, because then it will just kind of like taste undercooked. But you know, we want a little bit of squidginess. I can't think of any other word apart from squidgy. Right, okay, so now we're going to cut these into pieces. It will make at least like 16. You can make them as big or as small as you want to, but they are quite rich. They really, really are quite rich. And that is one of the things with this recipe, is that I wanted to design something that was kind of like small, so I could just like, you know, pop a piece of it into a little Tupperware and into my gym bag, but it would be filling as well. So it is very, very, very dense and rich as well, because we've got a lot of cacao powder in there. Paul says 20 minutes at 160 degrees Celsius. Understand? Yes, yeah, absolutely. Around 20. I say 15 to 25, because you've got to think, you know, if your brownie is thicker than mine, I think that this is probably around like 2 centimeters. If yours is thicker than that, it's going to take longer to cook. If yours is thinner than this, it's going to take less time to cook. And also, although ovens will say that they're at 160 degrees Celsius, quite often they're not. They lie. They all lie. So, you know, we have to kind of like give like a ballpark figure. And so I give you like a kind of like either like a visual cue, so you know what it should look like, or I give you like a tactile view, so tactile cue. So you know, what should it feel like as well? And hopefully with most recipes I can give you both as well, and that will really help you to tell whether it's done or not. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this up, and I will give you like a little bit of a chef's secret about how to cut them up evenly, because quite often what we'll do is we'll start here, and then by the time we get to here, like we've got like either like this really, really tiny brownie that we're going to cut, or a really big one. So I always just go in halves, which is why it's really helpful in this recipe, you know, that I say 16. So do it in half, and then half again, because it's just so much easier to see what is a half. There we go. And then I'll turn it around here as well. And I think if I do them in halves, they're going to be a bit too small, so I'm just going to do them into threes. You can see I'm having to like press quite hard because it is quite firm, So these are, you know, dense brownies, but this is good because they're not messy. They're not messy, because often I would be eating one, you know, when I was like rushing from the gym to work. Okay, so now we can just cut this one up, and I'll go halfway, lengthways. Is it lengthways or lengthwise? lengthwise. Apparently it's lengthwise, but that never seemed to sound right to me. Okay, and then if we do, yeah, this is going to work. Okay. And then we can get to putting some toppings on them. So with my brownies, I would do them with lots of different toppings on. And the reason why is because I was going to have one every day. It just meant that it didn't become boring to me. You know, if it was just kind of like plain, or if it was the same topping, then it would get a bit boring for me. So I would put like different toppings on. So let me bring my toppings over. Okay. So we've got quite a few to choose from. And of course, you know, you guys can absolutely choose your own adventure with this, because actually with chocolate, there's quite a lot of flavours that go with chocolate. There we go. So we've got lots of different types here. Okay, right, so just move these out of the way. So in the pan over there, I do have a bit of coconut oil. So you'll see in the ingredients list, kind of down there. Yeah, we've got 1 tablespoon of raw cacao powder, 1 tablespoon of water, and 1 teaspoon of coconut oil. So that will create a little kind of ganache that we can put onto some of our brownies, and then we can scatter these different ingredients on and they will stick to it. So I'm just going to see if our coconut oil has melted. Yes, it has. There we go. And so coconut oil is a really, really great thing to use, just to kind of use as a setting agent. You can use coconut oil that has flavour in it, the flavour of coconut, obviously, or you can use unflavoured. So if you want unflavoured, then search out refined coconut oil. So that is what I'm using today. So in here I have 1 tablespoon of raw cacao. So 1 tablespoon of raw cacao. You can use cocoa if you want to. And I'm going to mix in 1 tablespoon of water. There we go. And 1 teaspoon of coconut oil. There we go. Okay. And I'll just mix and mix and mix and mix and mix and mix and mix. There we go. And I wanted to do this first so that it can start just kind of setting a bit before we put it onto our brownies. There we go. Okay. So it basically becomes this kind of like chocolate paste. Oh, and I've got a very good like little kind of butter knife, which is probably going to help with this. Okay. Just grab that. Very, very handy, very, very handy thing to use. Okay, so, oh, Paul says, I'm wondering about using cocoa powder instead of cacao powder. I have both. I've been wondering where all the important sweetness is coming from. So the dates. But this is, I would say, an adult chocolate recipe. I was going to say treat. But you know, it's quite a functional recipe as well because it's got all that protein in it. But yes, this is more on the bitter side because we have so much cacao in there. But it should be balanced out by the dates. Now, if you guys want to have it sweeter, then what you can do is you could add a bit of kind of like date syrup or agave syrup or anything like that. You could add sweeter toppings to it as well. You could increase the amount of dates that are in it as well. So there are some options there, but I would call this kind of like an adult's recipe, an adult's chocolate recipe. And so quite often, like with my chocolate recipes, for adults, they tend to be more on the like slightly bitter side. But with chocolate, I mean, it's very much like, you know, how much garlic we like in things, how much salt we like in things, how much sugar we like in things. You know, it is very, very personal. So you guys have to kind of like figure that out yourself. Okay, so while our chocolate is setting a little bit, we're just going to do the peanut butter ones. So you'll see in the ingredients list, here, there we go. We've got 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, 1 teaspoon of coconut oil melted, and a few coconut chips. So the peanut butter that I'm using today is actually quite stiff. So I don't think that it really needs any coconut oil in here to set. So I'm not going to add any coconut oil. But if your peanut butter is quite runny, there are some brands out there that are incredibly runny, then add the coconut oil into it. And then I've got some toasted coconut chips here. And these are actually by this brand, which I absolutely love, Crazy Jacks. Their apricots, their dried apricots are really, really lovely. And so these coconut chips are actually already toasted, which is amazing. If your coconut chips aren't toasted and you want to have more flavour, and you want them to be toasted, then just put them into a frying pan without any oil or anything like that, and heat them until they start going a bit kind of golden brown. There we go. Okay, right. So with the peanut butter ones, now I'll just pop a bit on the top. There we go. Okay. Just checking that I didn't miss any questions. Oh, Ava said that she wanted to ask the same question as I think Patricia asked, but her hands were dirty with making the brownies. Yeah, it does get to be quite a messy recipe, but I love getting my hands involved. Really, really do. Okay, so I'll just pop my peanut butter on top. And so these can be frozen, which is great when you're making like a big quantity like this. So they can be frozen with the toppings on. That's absolutely fine. And so we'll just pop some of our coconut chips on here. So as I said, guys, you can really choose your own adventure with this. There are so many different ingredients you can pop on top that really, you can just make them completely bespoke for you. Of course, peanut butter is really, really lovely. I'm a massive, massive fan of peanut butter. I think like the kind of fattiness of it just adds like, a bit of kind of like naughtiness. It kind of feels a bit naughty. Okay, so we've done those ones. And now we've got our chocolate spread here. So what I'm going to do is just take a little bit off and spread it onto the brownies. So essentially it's like making a chocolate spread. So you could just eat this if you wanted to. There we go. And so this will just help with those other ingredients just sticking to our brownies. There we go. I'm not going to do all of the brownies while you guys are on the show. I'll just demonstrate the 3 other different flavours that I like. Oh, whoop. Okay, so yeah, let me just see if I've missed any questions. So yeah, Paul, I hope that I and everybody else answered your question. But yeah, I would say like taste the mixture, and this is like one of these mixtures that you can actually taste it before you cook it as well, which is great. And then you can see if you want to add any more sweetness to it. So I'm just going to add a couple of really lovely pecans to this one. To this one, I'm going to add some chili flakes. I know not everybody will love this one, but I do. Especially, if like you're going to the gym and having this afterwards and it's like quite early in the morning, it's really nice to like pick me up. And then here I've got some fennel seeds. So I'll just pop a few fennel seeds. I absolutely love fennel seeds. And fennel seeds are really, really, really good for our tummies. And when we consume a lot of protein, it can be a little bit hard on our tummy. So, and now I'm just going to add bit of lemon zest to that as well. So now what I will do is I will carry on making up all of these 4 different flavours. Well, I've already done the peanut butter ones, but all of the others. And then I will have the pecans, the chili, and the fennel and lemon. So there we go, guys. Really, 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 really simple. How simple is that? But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys can think of like what toppings you might want to put on them, but there's loads, you know, you could put like other dried fruit, you could put other spices in it. Around Christmas time, you can make it taste like a Christmas pudding. How amazing would that be? So we've got lots of different options. I think I'm going to have a bit of the chili one. I'm going to come and show this to you. So they are, as I said, you know, they're thick and rich and really like very, very, very filling, like for a small snack, but absolutely perfect for going to the gym, or you know, like when you go out and you don't know if there's going to be any vegan food there and so you're going to need to take something with you. I'm going to show you the peanut butter ones as well. Yay, look at those. How lovely is that? Really, really nice. Yum. So there we go, guys. In essence, the brownie recipe is really, really simple just for the base. So please don't be put off by all of the different ingredients that I've listed for the toppings. You know, it is just the protein powder, cacao or cocoa powder, the buckwheat flour, dates and plant milk. So it's just 5 ingredients. That is it. You know, that is like the base recipe, and then all of the other things are like optional extras. So it is a really, really, really simple recipe. And as I said, like you guys can, you know, chuck like different spices in it if you want. You can add like different flavorings. You could add vanilla to the actual base recipe as well, but other spices like the cinnamon that I use, because they have like such amazing properties for us. And you can put the toppings on, but you don't have to. You don't have to. If you just kind of want to do this stuff, then that's absolutely fine, and it will just give you a really, really lovely homemade snack to take out with you, rather than having to like buy something outside, you know, which I always, you know, more often than not these days will end up doing. But you know, back in the day, we didn't have so many, you know, vegan things out and about. So I got so used to making this sort of stuff for myself. But you know, when you batch cook it, you can just save yourself like so much money. And also, if we're not eating stuff from outside that is in like plastic packets, then that's like better for the environment as well. So it's good all round. So there we go, guys. I really, really hope that you have enjoyed the show. Ava says maybe I will put a pinch of sea salt flakes on the chocolate cream ones. Yeah, that's a great idea. I really, really like that. Paul says, by any chance, are you related? Oh, he's asking randomly, are you related to the famous athletics commentator Ron Pickering? And she said no, it's her married surname. Okay. Okay, so Joy said thank you. Thank you very much to everybody who's joined me today. Just to let you know, we do have our nutrition course starting on the 1st of June, which is really, really, really exciting. That's a new course for us. And we've got the next chef courses and the next vegan cooking diploma starting in July. So do check that out on the website. And do join me next week for another recipe in our Saturday kitchen. May have stolen that from somewhere. And I don't know, do you guys want savoury or sweet? Because I haven't decided what we're going to be making yet. So let me know, savoury or sweet. Savoury or sweet. Savoury or sweet. Okay, thank you so much for your time today, guys. And as always, have a lovely day.